I'm Simon Fujiwara and I'm an artist making an exhibition at the Tate St Ives. This is the first room of a series of 7 or 8 rooms that loosely follow my biography. The first room is dealing with 2 sort of details, one biographical and one about another artist, Alfred Wallis, who was a so-called naivist painter who painted nautical scenes. It was because of Alfred Wallis that many other artists moved down here. It was partly this tradition that my family moved to St Ives. And so with the first room I was playing with this kind of dual biography and wanted to make a kind of magical, overblown world of these very large lighthouses that are taken from Alfred Wallis paintings. I know this museum. I was 11 when it was built, and I remember all the discussions around it and, locals coming with petitions to say, we don't need a Tate, we need a leisure centre. Coming to St Ives is obviously a really bizarre kind of pairing. It's almost like this Frankenstein feeling where your work kind of catches up on you and actually, I'm exhibiting in the place that I'm from. So it's impossible to escape that biographical connection. In the next room, it deals with my so-called conception in a Spanish bar in the 70s, which my parents owned under the Franco dictatorship. And that room is a complete reconstruction of the bar that they owned with a kind of homoerotic subtext. It's a very repressed homoerotica that's visible in all of these sort of kitschy objects that adorn the bar. And once you see 2 or 3 of those, my intention was that you couldn't avoid seeing in everything else, and you start to look for it yourself and to somehow mimic in the audience's eye that sense of sexual oppression. There are 2 original Hepworth works here and a figure that I have made of Barbara Hepworth, sort of half finished, in a quite sort of matriarchal pose, and she has become a version of her own sculpture. I could never relate to any of the St Ives artists' work. What I wanted to do was to work with their biographies and the histories around them that were very much part of the mythology I grew up with. My earliest memory of hearing about Barbara Hepworth was the local fire officer coming to our primary school and saying, kids don't smoke because Barbara Hepworth died smoking in bed. And there are all of these kind of very personal anecdotes that are everywhere and not necessarily the things that tourists see, but were for me more exciting and more relevant than the works themselves. My ambition for the show was to make the exhibition that I wish I could have seen when I was a teenager, so to deal with issues particularly around homosexuality or things that are not so spoken about here in a very honest way, and deal with the history and the legacy of the St Ives artists in a very personal way. Because I'm from here, I can have that liberty to work with that material.